Hi, it's Sally from Field to Fork here. Have you noticed how noisy and busy the birds are in spring? It really is a crucial and hectic time for them because they're singing to attract mates, to establish their territory, but also then they've got to get on with the nest building, the laying of eggs, sitting on them to hatch, then the rearing of the chicks and fledglings. It's a time of change too, because many of those that were here during the winter months have now moved on, and all the time others are arriving, those that are insect feeders in particular, coming from warmer places to breed and stay the summer here. What bird activity can you spot? What bird song can you hear? Visit an area where you think there'll be birds. An area like this, maybe with lots of bushes and trees. And see what you can see and see what you can hear. Can you learn to recognise the birds by sight and by their sound? The RSPB website is really good at giving you help. Depending on where you are and what type of habitat is around will affect what birds you see and hear. So knowing what lives where is a good start to identifying them. When you're in an area of woodland like this with a thicket of undergrowth and bushes, then there's lots of tiny birds. So you might listen out for the chiff chaff of a chiff chaff, or the cheery chirp of a robin, or maybe the super fast trilling of a little wren. Or you might hear the low cooing of a wood pigeon, or a loud call of a crow. At the edge of the lake, you might hear coots, and moorhen, ducks, or even the warblers amongst the reeds. They're summer visitors that will come and nest among the reeds. The songs of the male birds at this time of year in particular serve a purpose of establishing their territories and attracting their mates, for it's usually the loudest and strongest songsters that are the most successful. And the time to hear them at their best is at dawn, hence the dawn chorus. And so you have to get up early for that. If you watch bird activity closely, you might see them pairing up and collecting material for nest building. You might even spot where they're taking it and building their nest. But if you do, remember to keep your distance. Don't be tempted to go too close, or they will feel threatened and move on. If they have eggs and chicks in the nest, they might abandon them too. So if you find a nest, you might be able to work out who was the builder, because each species of bird has its own particular style, place it likes to build, and materials that it builds with. An untidy pile of fine twigs is a pigeon's nest. Around the buildings, blue tits and house sparrows will make use of holes and nooks and crannies under the eaves and in the walls. A blackbird's nest, made of dead grass, matted together with mud. A nest burrowed into the ivy is most likely a robin. Under eaves and in corners of buildings, house martins and swallows will build their mud nests, bound together with saliva. They're of course summer visitors. In the reeds by the edge of the lake beyond the trees here, you might just be able to make out the pad of a swan's nest from last year. Here we've got examples of two different kinds of nests that we can take a closer look at. These nests have been blown out of a tree or have been removed from a bush that was being taken away. We wouldn't normally remove a bird's nest. Which one do you think was built by the bigger bird? Can you see how different they are in style and in materials used? This one is using mostly dead grass, leaves, all bound together with mud and held with saliva, lined with finer grass and maybe the odd feather. Whereas this one is much looser and is made of dead grass, moss and seed heads, giving it a much softer feel but less structure. So they would have been built by different species. But imagine doing all that with only a beak, no hands. And so to a nest building challenge. Can you, with the help of a partner, build a nest from the materials that are around you? Where will you site it? Are you a ground nesting bird, or will you be in the branches of a tree? Or maybe you will be able to find a hollow or hole you can nestle it into. If you want to make it a real challenge, only use one hand, just as if you've only got a beak. Before you start, remember there are a few things to think of. Always stay within the boundaries that your teacher sets for working in. Only use those materials that you can find lying around. In other words, they're no longer part of a living thing. And also take care not to pick up anything that is spiky or stingy or could harm you or might be poisonous. And do wash your hands well when you return back indoors. Here's some ideas for the type of materials you might be able to find around that will make good nest building material. So you will probably need some thin and bendy twigs that you can weave together or lay out in a structure. And then some softer material to work in and to line it with. And then can you find maybe some cones or pebbles to represent eggs and make sure your nest can hold them and keep them cosy. Well, that took a bit of patience and determination, and I don't really think it'll keep the chicks very safe or cosy, and definitely wouldn't stand up to a wind in the tree. So, how brilliant are these birds? Take a look at all the nests that your friends have made and see how they've done too. And maybe you could test them and see how they could stand up to the wind. I hope you've enjoyed the challenge of this activity and learning more about the birds that are around us. If you have, then look out for more Field to Fork activities to do in spring coming soon.